And tonight's topic, of course, is remembering the late, great Johnny Ace, rock and roll's first star and casualty, with our featured and honorable guest, the Dr. James Salem, who is the author of probably the best source on the late, great Johnny Ace. I mean, it's one of the best books I read on anybody as far as a musician's biography is concerned. He is the author of the late, great Johnny Ace and the transition from R&B to rock and roll. He is a wonderful professor of American Studies at the University of Alabama. This guy, no doubt, has great taste in music and pop culture. And it's just an honor to have him on. It's Dr. James Salem. Are you there?
Hey, I'm right here.
Welcome to We All Be Radio, sir. It's truly an honor, like I said before. I think you did an extraordinary job on really capturing not only the mystery of who was Johnny Ace, but also the environment that created such a person in the first place. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments.
And I'd like to ask you, first and foremost, what got you started on Johnny Ace? Why did you pick a book to do about Johnny Ace?
Well, I was always, what I was doing, I was going to write a book about what I called the season of 1954-55. And it's that, like the school year, 54-55, that starts like right after Brown versus Board of Education and ends around the Montgomery boycott. In that season where rock and roll happened, James Dean youth movies happened. It was a dynamic period, in my view, invention of American youth culture, the rock and roll breaking out, black artists breaking out into the white mainstream. That was my intention, and I thought that what I would do is write the middle chapter first. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing 54-55, then the middle is like December 54, January 55, and that was going to be my Johnny Ace story. But then he just took over the whole. I never did write that other book. I just wrote this one.
Wow. I mean, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I was lucky to get that inquest proceedings of his death. Nobody had ever seen that before. That was they were in cartons or crates in some warehouse in Houston, and I'd been trying to find everything I could about him. I went to Houston many times, and the Secretary for the Justice of the Peace in that jurisdiction took mercy on me, and after I came back home to Tuscaloosa, she talked her boss into going to the warehouse, and they found those old files, and she sent them to me.
Oh, wow. How was it to get those files in your hand? I mean, the actual files were sent to you?
Well, they were photocopies of the originals, but I thought I'd died and gone to heaven, and most of those are in the book of the inquest and the depositions from Big Mama and the other people in the room. But that was finally proof of, for example, when he died, because everybody's always making him die on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Because that sounds a little more, I guess, pathetic. But then, of course, it turns out that it was Christmas night when he killed himself backstage in that North Side dressing room at Houston City Auditorium.
Now, I know you did a great job of, I guess, capturing the spirit of the times. I mean, describe how, to me, in the book, you did a great job, because when I tell people about Johnny Ace, a lot of people don't know, of that age, don't know who he was, but when I tell them that, in order to get Johnny Ace, you had to book B.B. King and Bobby Blue Band, and they let you know what type of star he was. Can you just tell us, the magnitude of a guy like that dying that young? Go ahead.
Hank Williams died about 2 years before that.
Right.
He was a little older. He was 29. But
that's real old right there.
But country music had a fit over that kind of loss. Mm-hmm. Williams was about as self-destructive, or maybe even more so, than Ace was. But the thing about Johnny Ace, to me, the sad part of the story is that he got right to the top of the mountain, and then he could not survive to make the big money that was coming when all of a sudden rhythm and blues turned into rock and roll. And black performers got on the big white radio stations in heavy rotation, and they were going to get on television. They were going to get in the biggest clubs and venues in the country, and they were going to make some big money finally. But this guy just made the little money.
Hey, you did a great job of describing like the life of a musician. Like, I guess they worked the chitlin circuit, a black performer.
Right.
Like you said, a one-nighter sometimes would be like 800 miles apart.
Well, I know there are.
To yourself, right?
I know that was just incredible, and I got most of that. Johnny Ace never sat for an interview. Nobody ever did an article on him. Not at the time. There were even very few photographs of him. But I talked to a lot of people who knew him, a lot of people who were involved with him, and then I read everything I could about those people who were doing what he was doing at the time. And the best account of being on the road as a black performer is Charles Sawyer's book about B.B. King. Now, I do make some distinctions in the book about the difference between King and Ace. B.B. King was, he was like a plantation owner. He had a bus. He controlled the bus. He hired the band. He fired people. He was in charge of everything. When things went bad, he had to fix it. I mean, he was the man. And Johnny Ace was just the headliner.
Wow.
And who just did his thing and didn't have any responsibilities, probably because he couldn't have fulfilled any. But he was an altogether different guy. But I think that, like calendar 1954, he could have performed as many as 350 to 60 one-nighters in that year. I mean, he had no home. He never did have a home once he left Memphis.
And it's funny, like you say all this, and he was just 25 when he left this world. I keep on thinking about the people who were at 25. What if Duke Ellington died when he was 25? Nobody will remember Duke Ellington.
I know.
Or Miles Davis or Quincy Jones or none of those guys.
Everybody's best work came a whole lot after that, didn't it?
Yes, sir. And also I was thinking about, because when I was reading his story about his how he grew up in a Kojic home, and his father was a minister, and I was thinking about how it parallels, Sam Cooke's life, who also, he's from the Delta. Sam Cooke's from Clarksdale. His father was a minister, and it seemed like Johnny, he just totally rejected that lifestyle once he grew up. Whereas Sam Cooke, he actually started in gospel music and then crossed over. What do you think about they both ended up dying tragically young.
Yeah.
And Sam Cooke had a chance to really cross over. You think that Johnny Ace, if he had lived a little longer, would have been as big as Sam Cooke or Ray Charles when they crossed over?
Well, I really don't know, because so much of his popular reputation rests on "Pledging My Love," and so much of "Pledging My Love" rests upon the fact that he died playing so carelessly with his life. I mean, there's a kind of romantic image of the musician, especially the black musician, I'm afraid to say, in white culture.
Yeah, you see it in rap even. I look at Biggie, the Notorious B.I.G. or Tupac. You see it today.
Yes, you do. So, whether he had the stuff, whether he was going to stick, he was depressed, he was fat, he had his hair conked, it didn't look like he was doing very well in that the period, say 3 or 4 months before his death, and he was being, man, this guy was, he, as they say, he was rode hard and put up wet, playing so many one-night stands. But that's how they did it in Houston with anything to do with Don Roby. He was never going to give him any money out of record sales or royalties or songwriters or anything. If they wanted to have a life, if they wanted to make a living, all of his people had to make it on the road with personal, with live performances. That's how the system worked. And it kept them away from him and out of his hair, and it gave them some money to live on, but essentially they were having to hustle it on their own.